Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host Matt Marrero, along with your other host who is Tristan Walter, who will be calling in a moment. Now tonight we are talking about the Death Note live action movie, the Netflix one. We talked about the first one God knows how many months ago, I believe for Halloween in July actually. And but yeah, so we have Tristan calling in soon. The reason why we're stalling here is because, funnily enough, so we got the times mixed up, right? Because usually we're very honest with you guys with what's going on. We got the times mixed up because of the fact that we actually haven't gone live in Blog Talk Radio in a while. We did do it for TV Tuesdays with the Ring TV special. So to be fair, we did do it then, but it's been a very long time before then since we've done a live show. And of course, you guys are hearing it pre-recorded, but recently we've been doing it off Blog Talk Radio and just uploading it later. But we're actually doing a live show now, so I have to call in. He has to call in. And also, sometimes I'm rendering things in the background so you can hear me from Keikaku Corner, funnily enough. This is a complete disaster, but it's okay because you guys are here with me, wondering where Tristan Walter is. I think that is the key question here. He might be running away just like Light did at the end of the movie, and for different reasons, one would imagine. But this movie was a very interesting film. And more interesting, though, the fact that Tristan Walter hasn't called in yet. But, that's just a little bit of what the kids call shade that I'm throwing. I'm sorry, everybody. But, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this movie because, and Tristan Walter doesn't either. So let's hear his take on the, hello, Tristan, what's your hot take on the Death Note live-action Netflix movie, as I've stalled?
I liked it better than I thought I did, but for the bar of live-action movies, which honestly I feel like Death Note is actually one that you could pull off, it's still just stop. Just give me the anime and stop. Stop with the live-action stuff.
Yes.
Please, for the love of God, stop.
Yeah, when you say live-action, you're referring to live-action adaptations.
Yeah.
Yeah. My thing is this, right? I don't well, first off, before I even talk about live-action adaptations as a whole, just talking about the movie itself, I think if anyone said it was the worst live-action movie adaptation ever, I think they're wrong. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just think that you would be wrong. Someone would be wrong to say that it's the worst live-action adaptation ever. However, anyone that's saying it's the best one, if there are people that are saying it's the best one, I think you're wrong too. I'm in the middle here where I feel as if the movie itself, if it was devoid of the Death Note property, would just be able to go off on, would just be able to be entertaining, and I can go, wow, this is entertaining. But because of the fact that Death Note is included, because it's the Death Note IP, it's called Death Note, all of the changes, I think, in a way, hindered it. And it's really frustrating because this is the third time we've done this show, right, Tristan? Because we did one that didn't record, and that's why we said, oh, God, this is terrible. Then we did half of a second one, and then all of a sudden, somehow my computer's audio stopped working, which is a wonderful thing, right, Tristan?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
This movie is...
Yeah, this movie's cursed, is what it is. So... here's the thing, though, right? You talked about before saying, oh, the problem is, no more live-action adaptations. I think we can get live-action TV adaptations, and I think they could be very interesting. But I think trying to adapt TV shows into movies, it's just not really working.
Yeah. Well...
yeah.
I just think it's harder with anime or manga to try and put that into a live-action setting. I feel like
I would argue video games, too.
Yeah, yes, video games, too. I mean, that's a whole other monster, but...
You know what it is, too? I think that at least when it comes to this movie, people, we didn't mention this in the first take that we did, God knows, like 2 weeks ago or something? Because we tried to release this during Halloween, and that didn't work out. But we didn't even talk about this. There was a controversy because apparently it was going around that the casting for Light, not Light Yagami, Light Turner, they weren't even looking for Asian actors.
Right. Well, because the idea was that it's supposed to take place in, like, the live-action series. It's in Seattle. It's in America. So it's not like they're supposed to be inherently, like, Japanese or Asian, I guess. And
But Asian people exist.
Oh, yes, of course.
So that's the problem. Like, therein lies the problem. Like, it would be like saying, oh, it's supposed to take place in America, so we can't have L be black. It'd be like, wait, what? No, like, black people exist in America. I mean, you that's the thing. Like, it's a weird situation because, yes, of course, you don't want them speaking Japanese if they're supposed to be speaking American, right? But supposed to be speaking American.
Oh, God, no.
But
English.
I know. I'm sorry. I know they speak English. I know, Tristan. But all jokes aside, right? Yes, they're speaking English, but it's like Asian people exist. So like it was very straight. Like people were really frustrated, especially because Netflix seems like kind of a place for opportunity in some ways.
Right. Yeah.
So I think people felt weird about it being like, oh, yeah, here's this adaptation, and everyone's going to be white. Now, obviously it didn't happen, right? But it felt as if, like, oh, yeah, we're going to make an adaptation, and instead of, making, let's say, Light's family Japanese, of course that would present problems, too, arguably, because then you think, well, why the only Japanese family in the movie are the evil, makes Hellspawn in Light. So that also looks a little weird.
Light Turner's not Hellspawn. He's just misunderstood and has lost a parent, and people bully him. And
you were so much nicer on this the first time we did it.
Yeah. Well, no.
So I have a question. Is it because we've had to do it 3 times, or is it because it's like all the anger is setting in?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'll say this, right? And this is going to sound terrible both in and out of context. So this movie, in many ways, made things a lot more real. And I in no way want to say, oh, we don't want real characters and people, and characters we can not say relate to, but we can go, oh, that seems like that's quote unquote real, right? In terms of this is how a teenager acts. Like I remember how you and I acted. We didn't murder anybody, but everything else sans murder. How you and I acted as teenagers, how everyone else around us acted as teenagers, and me working with high school kids for as many years as I have, I see a lot of what was going on in this movie, and I thought, wow, this is how teenagers talk. The problem is that the character of Light Yagami, in this case Light Turner, in my head is not really, and also on in the manga and in the anime, so it's not just all in my head, isn't really this character that's like, yes, he would do other people's homework, and in my head he would do it for money, but some of it's just weird, you know what I mean? Like him just cursing the way he did, even though him telling Ryuk to fuck off was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I'm rooting for this guy now. Would you shut the fuck up?
Yes. That is the most. That's something I think all of us wanted to really say to Ryuk, at least at one point in the series or another. So,
yeah,
that was fun. Yeah, so that was fun. But it's just, there's just something about the way Light was in this movie that it just felt like we weren't dealing with Light. Like, honestly, you might as well have changed his first name. I don't really understand why it's like, oh, he's going to be Light Turner.
Right.
It's
at least for me, I just feel like Light is not supposed to, like, he feels too human in this movie. And, like, granted, the character Light Yagami, there's nothing supernatural about him, but, like, he's not right in the head. and not in the sense of, oh, he needs help. It's like, no, like, light is just human life. If it's not, if you don't fit the specific, vision that he has, it's like you're not worth it. And they kind of get into that with this light, but at the same time, you're not supposed to be able to connect with him and be like, you know what, I know, like, I get how you feel. Like, you get that a little bit in the original story, but, like, once it progresses, he gets the whole God complex, and, God of the New World and ridding the world of criminals. It's like, no one on our level is supposed to have that power, but that distinction doesn't really come for him,
Yes, and you and I talk about this all the time off podcast. We say, hey, at the core of, oh, hey, I want justice, I want these criminals to die. At that point, there are, I think, a lot of people that could be like, you know what, I'm okay with that because they're criminals. You don't think of even though there's a lot of gray area, like what if someone was arrested wrongly or something like that, because Light wasn't even going off people that would be in jail. He was going off people who would be arrested at one point, and it was like, oh, God, you don't even want to be falsely accused, right? But again, people might not think.
At the beginning, too.
Say that again?
That's why Kira gets such a huge following at the beginning. Like, people really think he's helping them out. But
Exactly. The problem is that, like you said, like we talk about a lot, as it progresses, and rather quickly, honestly, in the first episode, right, he just goes, I want to be the God of the New World. And you're like, I'm not with you on that. I was with you for a bit.
Yeah.
Like, I understood where you were coming from in a way. You don't want people to die and get hurt and everything. Die as in from other people's hands and yada, yada. But then it's like, oh, I am the judge, jury, executioner. Then you start to freak out. You as someone who isn't the person running, owning the Death Note. And then when he turns on L in episode 2, you're like, okay, none of this. I'm not a fan. Here, they took away him being a sociopath, in my opinion, but you still kept all of the death.
Right. If not, gave it more.
Yes. So you sit there and you're like, wait a minute. So Light Yagami or Light Turner, we're supposed to feel bad for him. Like you said, his mom, is dead, and and she was killed.
It really feels like they're going for that, revenge scheme, like the troubled child aspect, and it's like, I don't know, no, please, it's not. It's his motivation doesn't stem from that, and I'm like, I guess I get why they tried to do that, but I really don't think that's a good way of presenting the character of Light, because then it gives him some kind of, I don't want to say excuse really, because that behavior isn't excusable, but it
gives him it gives him a reason that it feels like you're supposed to connect with him, like, oh, look at him, and it's like, no, he murdered 400 people.
Right.
So, and yes, he murdered them with Mia, but still, 400 people.
Oh,
and that's not good.
Yeah, and fuck everything that goes on between the two of them. It's like,
we'll get to that later.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. You
will. Well, no, I mean, we don't have to do it in order. If you want to rage, then you can rage.
No, you're right. No, we should try and keep some semblance of order. But
right. Just.
Did you have anything else to say about Light right now, or?
The decapitation was fucking crazy. Sorry, I'm watching it in the background as I usually do. So literally, guy gets decapitated, and I'm just like, oh well, shit.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about Light 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying about the decapitation?
No, just like, not that the anime and manga didn't have their grueling deaths, in some places, but I felt like most of them happen in different, like, they were split panels where you wouldn't see it necessarily, like, unfolding in front of you. You would just see the aftermath kind of idea. But here it's just we do a slow motion of just that car tripping, and it's this whole chain. It's like the Death Note is supernatural, obviously, and it's like it controls these events. But just the fact that it's the ladder that falls off this truck that's going past and then flies out and decapitates this kid. It's like, okay, I think my exact words to you were, so that man's head came off, Matt. That happened quickly.
I mean, it's kind of like, all right, Light, just put down the DVD of Final Destination.
Yeah, right.
It's too much. Just
right.
go to your room, do your homework. One thing I want to say though, overall, I think one of the best things about this film were the casting choices, because despite you and I thinking, oh, this person didn't act the way that I wanted them to, it's not necessarily like Light. It's not the guy who played. I think it's Nate something. It's not his fault that he played Light that way. That was the way he was told to play Light. But looking at, even when he got to be more serious, I thought, oh wow, this is kind of like Light, in my opinion. When you see William Dafoe as Ryuk.
Oh yeah,
he's
that
just
was beautiful.
He's Ryuk. It's just that simple. Seeing Light's dad, it honestly did feel like I was seeing his dad if he was just, put in a different situation and obviously American.
Right.
Like I didn't look at his dad and think, oh, that's not something his dad would say.
Right, yeah.
So that's my take on it. My only issue, of course, is, and again, back to Light, making him more real in the sense that we have to make him like he's a back-talking teenager. Like, I felt like this movie, in a way, was trying to be too cool and edgy.
Yeah.
And I mean that more so with the deaths as well. Like, it just felt like they were trying to, I believe it was, Adam Wingard? Was that the director/writer's name?
Yeah.
Yes. So, first off, I want to mention, people have been giving him shit online. And look, you can criticize the movie all you want to. You can criticize his work all you want to. But he's been getting death threats. So don't fucking do that. I just want to put that out there. Like, don't fucking, no. He doesn't fucking deserve death threats. He deserves, like, you know what he deserves? Get him, like, a "you tried" sticker.
Yeah, right.
That's what he deserves. Because honestly, I have to say, though, despite what I didn't like in this movie, I do believe he's a fan of the series, or he's seen it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't look at this. I don't look at this and think, oh, he got some shitty plot summary. There's some shit in here that I'm like, oh, wow, a fan tried to, like, adapt this as best as they could into this scene or something.
Right.
Like, for instance, oh, hey, we're going to have the guy come out of the, I think it was, I don't remember if it was an elementary school in this movie, but basically it was the guy who had hostages. He comes out, and instead of him just dying of a heart attack like he did in the manga and the anime, and off camera, what ends up happening is they took the bus scene from the anime manga, and they just said, fuck it, let's just combine the two.
Right, yeah.
So clearly, it's not like he just sat there and was like, yeah, I was given a summary and this looks pretty cool, let me do my own thing. He did his own fucking thing, don't get me wrong. Yeah, but I think it was done in a way that I truly believe that he liked what was in it originally. He just sat there and thought, all right, this is how I'm going to adapt it and give my own, my stamp on it and make it different. And I'm just not a fan of a bunch of the different things that he did with it.
Right. Yeah, it definitely feels like they look like it doesn't feel like, in the sense, because that's why I said earlier, for like live action movies. Granted, that's a pretty live action adaptations of an anime or manga. Granted, a lot of them in the past had a pretty low bar. This one actually feels like the director and everybody that worked on it took the time to look at the source material and really, understand what's going on. But again, the execution kind of falls a little short to what, we would have liked. But I do appreciate the fact that it does at least feel like they respect the source material.
Now, there's one thing you said that interested me that I wanted to touch upon. You said, I think I understand why they killed off Light's mom. Because remember that, Adam Wingard killed Light's mom. I know, a mob guy did. But anyway, the reason why they did that, though, in my opinion, is I think they just wanted to, A, save budget on getting 2 actors, because I was going to say actors or actresses, but, it doesn't matter. Either word is interchangeable. 2 actors, because remember, not only did they kill off Light's mom, Light apparently does not have a sister.
Right.
So Sayu's gone, or whatever her name would have been, Samantha. Samantha's gone. So I assume they took them out not just to save budget, because again, you don't have to pay them. You also save time, because then you'd have to. I assume maybe you wouldn't build them up, but then they just kind of be there in a way. Where like this movie obviously isn't as long as a TV show or a manga. So in the manga TV show, you could have Sayu kind of just be around as a background character, and then the mom show up more often. When like, when he brought Misa home.
Right, yeah.
Or when she just appeared and she was in the complete gothic Lolita outfit, and she's like, Light, you have a visitor.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that, yeah. And he was just like, that's my friend, and she is going to my room alone. And Sayu was like, wow, I didn't know Light was into that.
Right.
And she was like, Sayu, stop it. And I'm pretty sure like Sochito.
Right for this series.
What was that?
I said Sayu would have been right if she were watching the live action.
Yeah. So that whole thing, and that was another issue, I think, is that I feel like they tried to, in that whole too cool, edgy category, they also tried to go for a love angle between Light. What?
The Death Note gets you laid, Matt. That's what this movie. I thought that's what the lesson of this movie was.
It's interesting. They didn't really go into it. It was a cut scene, but Light actually has erectile dysfunction, and the murder really got him going. Took you that long to just process all that? You were like, I'm trying to block it out of my mind, but it's just coming through.
Yeah.
It's just, that whole love angle was, again, is it real? Is it teenage? Yes. But the problem becomes like, why do I want to see this? Like, that's the thing. It's like, there's parts of this movie where it's like, wait, if I'm a fan of the anime, why do I want to see this? And some would say, but it's not just being made for you, which is totally true, by the way, and I get that. The problem is that even though it's not being made for me, or you, or any of the original fans of the anime, it was not being made for us. Who is it being made for? A teenager who is also watching the anime? Because then they just want to watch the anime. Like, you want to watch the anime because you might be thinking, this is different than teenage romance and stuff like that. Typical high school stuff, and tropes and cliches. So if that's in here, then it's like, wait, then what is that?
I said they threw plenty of that in.
Exactly. So you sit there and you think, wait, but would a teenager want to watch that if they watch the anime? So again, who is this for? It's for anyone. But are people really random people going to be like, I have a Netflix account. Death Note, what's this? And then want to commit to watching this hour-and-a-half movie with no context whatsoever to the show? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel as if, the idea of, and I'm not saying the director wanted to do this just for everyone and make it more appealing to everybody. Because I don't know if he did. I don't know if that's what Netflix wanted to do. I don't know any of that stuff, right? I'm just speculating because that's usually what the mindset is, and that's why we fucking put Goku in high school. Fucking fuck. But the point, I'm not bitter. How many years has it been, Tristan? I'm not bitter. You sit there and you're like, wait, will random people want to come in and watch this? I don't know. Like, I don't believe that random people would want to watch Death Note. I feel like it's just the anime fans who are like, oh my god, let me see what happened here.
Right.
And that can be a lot of anime fans. But I feel like look, I'm not saying it has to be a one-to-one adaptation or anything, because obviously you can't do that because it's a movie. But looking at what happened in the Japanese live-action movie, well, there were flaws in that too, and you and I mentioned earlier when I was waiting for you to call in, you and I discussed the problems with that and when we did it for Halloween in July. But at the same time, you know, I feel as if they were like, oh, but let's do what we can to make it as close as we can while still confining it to this movie. Where here it was just like, nah, you can make it American while still keeping certain things like there. Like, it's kind of funny. The one thing I actually understand, thinking of at least New York, it would be really funny if Light was like, don't worry, the bus will come in 2 minutes. No, it fucking won't, Light. Your whole fucking Death Note plan is ruined. The bus is never fucking coming, Light. Sorry, just as New Yorkers, I can understand, like, oh no, I'll kill Ray Penber on the train because the train will come. Dude, your train is never fucking coming. He's going to die of a heart attack 3 stops away because there's fucking train delays.
Yeah, right.
Because of fucking signal trouble. So there's some work being done on the track. Fucking hell, I didn't think about that. So I actually understand why certain things would need to be changed. It was just, you know, other things, like, I feel like in a way they simplified certain things. Like in some ways they made them really fucking convoluted and weird. And in other ways they simplified them way too much. Where, like, I feel like they wanted to bring up the drama, right? So they sat back and were like, oh, Mia, you know, she touches the Death Note, she can't see Ryuk. And that's kind of weird.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like, it would make things a lot easier if she could, but obviously that's the problem. No, it can't be that easy. But then Light Yagami, or Turner, can be like, hey, Watari. Yes? How about you do 70 backflips to where L's fucking files are? Of course I can. Right. And it's like, wait, what?
What?
Like, it's mind control. What the fuck are you doing? Also, by the way, even though it didn't need to be mentioned in this movie, no mention of Shinigami Eyes.
Right.
They didn't need to be mentioned, but still, no mention, which was weird.
No, it just feels, it feels like they made the powers of the Death Note itself much more amplified in this to skip around some of the other powers that come into play, but much later, because they only had an hour and 30. So, like, I get why they did that. Like, the Death Note can basically mind control someone.
Which was dumb, but at the same time, it obviously would, in a way, even though I don't like not mentioning certain things, wouldn't it just fucking ruin the entire build-up of pretty much everything if all Mia could do was literally say to Ryuk, hey, listen, how about you give me those Shinigami eyes?
Yeah, like it wouldn't have worked in this setting, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I do enjoy, like, the twist that they gave. Like, I didn't enjoy the relationship aspect of the two of them together because, look, I just really didn't. I didn't come here for murder porn. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted to come and see in my Death Note adaptation. I'm sorry.
That's usually what I come to things with, but not this.
But, like, I do like the idea that it felt almost to me like the original character of Light is split into both of them, where, you know, Light Turner is still the one who has the vision and he has the plan of, you know, helping people in the sense of ridding the world of criminals, ridding the world of, you know, bad guys, quote unquote. But he still has rules about how to go about it, whereas she is the one who's just like, no, we have to cover our asses anyway, and if they stand in our way, they must be killed.
And let's be real. Let's be real. I'm okay with, because even with Light killing his dad, I think he pondered it once, but it took him a while to actually go fucking through with it. Took him years. To be fair.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, and we fucking
yeah. In the original work, he always had that thought in the back of his head, like, oh, what if I have to go up against my own family? And he's like, well, we'll get to that when we come to it. And it's like when he finally did, he's like, sorry, Dad, it's for the sake of the new world. Got to do it. You'd understand if you were in my position. Oh, no, he wouldn't, but okay.
And to be fair, at that point, Light's dad was really old. Like, what are you going to do at that point? How much longer did he really have left? No, I'm being a dick. No, I'm being a dick.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So yeah, they split them up. Misa Amane doesn't really exist anymore. There is only Mia.
Right.
And look, I do
like the idea that they give her the twist, like she wants the notebook for herself. Like for the movie, like that was interesting for me. I'm like, oh, it's not Ryuk fucking with you. It actually is her wanting to take the reins for herself because she feels like you don't have the gumption to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Not her exact words, but that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, right? That's her. No. I'm pretty sure as a teenager in the year 2017, she did say gumption. No, I know. I'm sorry. I actually love that word. But what I think it is, right? I think that look, I like the twist, but there was a very weird, balancing act they had to go with here. Yeah. And the reason why I say this is because they had to sit there and think, okay, we don't want her to be like Misa, because let's be real, as much as I understand why, Misa isn't the only female character in the show. However, with the show and the manga, the thing is that you have a bunch of female characters, not as many, sadly, but the ones that you do have, other than like Light's mom and Light's sister, you have strong characters. In Naomi, you have Kiyomi, and you have, that might be the only two. But the point is that you do have strong characters there, right? The issue is you're only going to have the movie for this amount of time. It would be harder to introduce Naomi, even though they fucking did in the Japanese version, and you definitely can't introduce Kiyomi.
Right.
So you're sitting here like, oh God, in the U.S. or in our global movie, because it's not just a U.S. movie. It was released in the U.S., but obviously there's German dubs and subs as well. So it's pretty much because Netflix is global. So in our global movie adaptation that we're doing here, we're going to have the main character be sociopathic jerk, basically, essentially being a human. I guess I can't think of the word, not adaptation, but like a human version of the word. What's the word I'm looking for? Affluenza, essentially, just human affluenza is Light, really, because Japanese Light is privileged. I mean, think about it. He doesn't come from a poor family. He comes from a pretty well-off family. Not like rich, but well enough. His dad's a cop, so he gets all this information. He gets to go to cram school. Yeah. So he gets the privilege. Yeah. So all this stuff. Yeah.
The original Light is just he's a genius, but he's incredibly twisted. Like there was just something that
he's a sociopath.
Right, yeah. Whereas, this one, they give so many different, little things, here and there. It's like, oh, he's troubled and stuff like that. It's like, no. Troubled people do not go out.
And he lives he lives under the tracks, Tristan.
Go out and say, I'm going to murder everything in sight,
Yeah,
like, no.
But he also lives under the... But Tristan, he lives under the train tracks. His family isn't doing well.
Yeah, and Harry Potter lived in a cupboard, and he didn't go around murdering people. Now, did he?
But he could have.
I mean,
no, but could have murdered them all.
Jesus.
No, But yeah. So I get you. You're right.
Different series. You see what I'm trying to say?
No, I know. No, exactly. Yes. So what I was trying to say is that you can't have human affluenza, and then his companion is ditzy blonde.
Right.
Oh my God, I love you so much, and I will do anything for you. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. And Light's like, of course you are. You're so stupid. That wouldn't
you just see his eyes light up and the scenery go red.
Like, if it was a TV series, I'd be like, come on, introduce Misa. You can introduce other strong female characters as well. But in a movie like this, if you're going to condense it, it's kind of rough to make it look like that. So, right, I understand, oh, good, let's give Mia power. Let's make her on Light's level. But then the problem is that you put her on Light's level, but then she becomes the villain anyway. So now you're only... Literally, I think your only female character in this movie, now the bad guy. And Light has to overcome her being the bad guy, despite the fact that it's not like he never wrote names down. Like, if they fleshed it out more and said, oh, no, Light was complicit, Mia only wrote names, Light only wrote the first one.
Right.
Okay. But no, he writes the name showing her, like, yo, look what I can fucking do.
Yeah. Look what
and she's
I can
like,
do.
oh my God, you can do that. And it was like, yep.
Like you
now
now?
get on my penis.
Yes, I like you now.
Oh, okay. We're both at the same wavelength, but we're really we're getting there differently.
Yes.
But
that's usually what happens.
But yeah, usually what happens. But in all seriousness, right? Like, it's seriously, it's not like he never wrote down a name or he wrote down the one name and he was like, oh my God, no. And then she was like, I'm writing down every single name. No, they're both equally wrong, and this is why they're on the same level. So by saying, oh, no, she's the evil one, he has to kill her, it's like, wait, no, then like, arguably you could say, oh, that's when you turn against him, I guess. But why would you turn against him if she's the one, like, oh, I'm scheming with Ryuk to try to take you down? Sorry.
And that's also why
it's like,
I hate this. Like, the dynamic between them is like, oh, no, it's like, no, we do love each other. It's like, I'm planning to stab you in the back, though, and I'm totally going to do it. It's okay. Don't worry. Trust me, I'll work things out so we can both live and we can be happy together. It's like, Light, what are you doing? Light, take your head out of your ass for a second, please. She's trying to kill you. And
it's funny, she wasn't.
Original series, like,
sort of.
At first wasn't really, but, like, she goes back and forth between, like, oh, I do love you, but at the same time, I'm going to murder you and take your notebook because, you're not doing this right. And then, because Light is supposed to be devoid of that kind of thing, though. Like, in the series, like, yes, he does go out, quote-unquote, with Misa, but from the very first moment where he hugs her and says, yes, I will love you, you can see he's not sincere about it. You even see his face, like, smirk. He is, like, exactly. Like,
yeah.
And this, Light Turner is like, no, it's okay. I could save you too. I know you tried to kill me, but I know you still love me. It's like, will you shut the fuck up, please?
Yes. Let's talk about a good casting choice. Let's go to some positives for a bit. Ellen Watari.
You want to do? Oh, yes. That was the other thing. I did actually like how they portrayed Elle, because the actor got his mannerisms down pat, and it was beautiful. Like the way he sits, the way he answers the phone, even the tone of his voice, the way he spoke. Like, it felt
eating
like the
candy.
actor really. Yeah. Oh God, eating the candy. Yeah, even that too. I was like, wow, he really gave it like 110% on this. Like, bravo.
Yes, my it's interesting because I think my only issue, and not talking about the later stuff, my only issue I think is other people who are just like, oh God, he's black, like as if like it's like guys, he's Elle though.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Right. Like, yeah, no, it's like because the thing too. Another thing though, I saw some people talking about some stats. And interestingly enough, they were saying, hey, it's actually more likely nowadays, if we're going with the whole real life 2017, it's more likely that you would find someone from Britain or from England, someone who is African American, specifically, rather than being the pure white ghost that Elle was in the manga.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what's interesting, too. It's like, oh, hey, if we're going with real here, here's what you would actually find. I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. But the reason why I was so happy with Elle is because I think it even challenged some of my preconceived notions, where I don't think there's anything wrong with someone who is of a different ethnicity playing a character that was white in a source material. But usually I err on the side of, oh, what did the source material do? And let's try to adapt other characters who are of different ethnicities instead of changing other ethnicities. That's my usual thing. So in other words, I would rather say, hey, let's make a Cyborg or a Static Shock movie instead of saying, let's make Barry Allen African American. That's my usual go-to. However, I still don't say, hey, let's not cast that guy. Just that's my usual go-to. But here we have someone who plays Elle, who just so happens to be, well, technically not African American because he actually is British. He's just, he's you can say black in this case because some people go, you can't say black. It's like, he's not African American though. He's not from America. Like, so what? Sorry, like what do you say? He's African English. I don't know if that's the actual term. But it's just like, you know, so in this case, it's like, yes, he's black, but he's Elle. He's literally fucking Elle. Like, there's no, other than, then what happens later, it's like, but he's still Elle throughout a decent chunk of the movie.
Yeah. Elle doesn't feel like a character that you have to have him a specific ethnicity, so that, you know, you can change that easily and still have him be Elle, you know?
And no one, and interestingly enough, no one had to be a certain ethnicity, to be fair. I'm not saying you're saying that, but like in general, no one had to be a specific ethnicity because really you could have made light Asian. That's the thing. Like that's the thing that I'm not going to harp on it too much. It might sound like to some that I am because it's mostly because I just remembered, like, there was controversy around that. And the only reason why I'm talking about that controversy is because, you know, any one of the characters could have been Asian, and I don't think it would have been off. You know, I mean, Watati was because yes, right. But yeah. So, the one thing I thought was interesting, speaking of Elle still, was Elle's introduction, where they even show that Elle, because I think the one thing that people sometimes forget about Elle is that Elle and Light are very much in some ways one and the same. They just are on different sides of the equation.
Sides of the coin. Right.
Yes. Exactly. So when they show up like, oh, hey, I can't believe this happened. And it was like, well, that's interesting because I legit tipped off Kira to this. And it's like, oh, Elle.
Yeah. Like, he does some pretty kind of fuzzy things, too. It's like, you didn't, like, I know they were on death row, but you didn't do that, did you? Or it wasn't death row in this case. It was the...
No. Yes, but because in this series, in this movie, it was, oh yes, they were two rival gangs that would never fight each other. Why would they fight each other? Well, I mentioned them in the news, rather heavily.
Right.
Where in the manga and the anime, he did release some death row names, but even before that, just the fact that Lind L. Taylor was a guy on death row that he was like, hey, dude, just go out there and pretend to be me. And if you don't die, you get to walk free.
Right.
And then he died. And it's kind of like, oh, well, I was actually testing you, Kira. And it's kind of like, wait, the good guy in this just killed a guy, technically. No, but Light did it. Yeah, but he put him out there.
Right.
So, you know, and in this case, they kind of change it up a little bit in a way that I'm not a big fan of, to be fair, where it's like, you know.
To Elle, really. They have him have that whole breakdown over Watari, which, not to say that
no, not
Elle
the breakdown.
Cool. Oh, all right.
I was actually, even before the breakdown, I was talking about him actually walking out in front of a crowd of people and being like, hello, everybody, I am the super fucking secret detective. The super fucking secret detective? No, Nani?
I mean,
I am the super fucking secret. Yeah.
I felt like I was okay with that because it felt within his character. Like, yeah, I'm just that cocky. Like, well, you kind of are.
Well, I mean, to be fair, yes, he is a combination of Nier and Mello. It's just that sometimes I felt like, at least before he introduced himself to Light, in some ways he was more Nier than Mello.
Right.
Like, before they got chained up together, I feel like he was more near. Yes, of course, he had some mellow characteristics, but, like, I felt like he wouldn't actually go out of his way to walk around in public.
Right.
Now, sure, he had his face covered, but it's kind of those things where, like, he didn't have any security. I mean, maybe he did, but, like, you know, we don't know about it. But, like, it just looked really weird. Like, it's bright daylight, courthouse, like, well, I mean, it was in front of a police station, but still, bright daylight, literally has the fucking podium there and everything, and he's just like, by the way, I just want to make sure all the cameras are on me. Are we all good here? Like, it was just, I don't know, like, it felt less elaborate, and it felt too direct. Like, that's like one of those things where we said earlier, it felt like certain things were dumbed down.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it was also part of the idea they had to kind of lessen the game of cat and mouse between L and Light to fit it within that hour 30.
Yeah. Also because Light just isn't, like, it's kind of a thing where it's like the game of cat and mouse. It's like, no, it's very defined who's who. L is the cat, Light is the mouse. It's pretty fucking simple. No, because in the manga anime, it kind of feels like it's cat versus cat, honestly.
Right.
Like, you use the phrase cat mouse because, you know, that's just a turn of phrase. But the actual fight was like, no, it's cat versus cat, dog versus dog. You know, here it's just like cat versus mouse.
Yeah.
Just
because
let L
don't
just
see
smack him around.
Whole calculating, you know, side of Light until almost the very end of the film, where he's, you know, in the hospital bed coming out of the coma, like, oh, I'm still alive, and you want to know how I fucking did it?
It almost felt like you were trying to, not you personally, because you didn't write this, it almost felt like they were trying to say, hey, in the beginning of the movie, hey, Light's doing the homework, Light's smart, okay, he's just not doing it for the right reason necessarily, but, like, Light's smart, okay, he's a whiz kid. And then throughout the movie, he's just a normal, typical teenager. I was going to say dumb little shit, but I feel like that's too much.
Yeah,
that's too much.
He does so many things. It's like, no, why the fuck did you?
Which then it's kind of like, oh, then like again, you should have. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like in some ways, because they dumb certain things down, you're supposed to be like, no, he's not. You know, like, you're supposed to like him and whatever, yada yada. But in some ways, it felt like Light should have been captured in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Right.
Because of how because of how they showed his character. Also, another thing too. No. Let's talk about because we're still on L. Let's talk about the L breakdown. I, in a way, like that he broke down because it went through something that we never had to look at in the series, which is what happens to L without Watari.
Right.
The problem is that because Watari was mind controlled and everything else that happened in it, we then had L go off such a deep end that really it felt like when I said earlier, it felt like the creators watched it, yes, it did. But because of the whole let's put our own, stank on it, put our own, stamp on it, it then turned into the mass murdering Light Yagami, Light Turner, is a good guy. And everyone else who wants to stop him is bad. And it's like, it's not what this was about at all. Like, maybe you could argue there are fans of, the original Death Note that are huge horror fanatics. To be fair, I like horror movies as well. But, like, huge horror fanatics that are like, no, we're rooting for the bad guy.
Right.
But I don't know, man. Because, like, yes, I admit, you're watching Friday the 13th. Are you rooting for all of the teenagers to not die? Right? I don't know. I don't think I'm rooting for Jason necessarily, but I sure as hell am being entertained regardless.
Right.
But it feels strange to me that here, because you know what it is too, when you look at something like Friday the 13th, Jason is a straight-up monster. Freddy, while still having his quips, is a straight-up monster.
Right.
Here, you're giving Light all these human characteristics, so then he's not a straight-up monster. And you're changing, because if you're going by what the manga anime stand is, where you're like, oh, people want to root for him, because even though he's a monster. Okay, fine. But you took away those monstrous characteristics and then tried to give it to, like, other people, like Mia or even L.
Right.
So you end up doing so much with L that, like, am I really supposed to be rooting for L right now? No. In my opinion, by the end of the movie, I'm supposed to be rooting for Light, the guy that killed 400 people. So I think that was really frustrating because, I mean, you really didn't like L becoming who he became, which I understand, but, like, I want to hear your opinions on that.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt like we talked about earlier, how there's supposed to be two sides of the same coin, and while, you know, in this version, Light loses his shit a lot easier than the original one does. Yeah, so, you know, so we should have L, you know, be a little more humanistic as well. It's like, no, their characters are they both think in different ways than normal people do. Or I use the term normal very loosely. But like even with the task force, that was another thing you never get to see in this movie. There's not really, it's just kind of the dynamic with his dad and L. You know, you don't get to see the rest of the task force interacting with L and being like, so he can get results and he gets the job done, but he's really fucking weird. You know?
Yes, where with the task force, they can both reinforce James. Yeah, he was James in this one. And Soichiro enforces James' theories of, like, oh, he's weird, and then others can kind of go against it. Like, you know, yeah, kind of, but he's pretty smart, too. Like, there wasn't really any of that to bounce off of, so it was just, yeah, that's fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like L, even if he lost Wataru, I feel like L in the original series would have he would have had his moment of, oh crap, I just lost Wataru, but he would have come out of it and he would have come back, you know, just back at the game that much more determined. He wouldn't go, you know, loose cannon cop, steal a cop car, grab a gun and go, I'm going to go get him. You know, it's like, no, that's not how L plays the game. And it is a game.
No,
he's even, you know, granted
I think, just want to put out there, I think that he would have pressed Misa harder, but not Light.
Yeah.
Because in the manga and the anime, he had that dynamic with Misa as well by that point.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends on when you're thinking of plucking Wataru out.
True. Yeah, true.
I'm only saying it because, like, I feel as if he would be a little upset, and he would probably press down. But obviously, yes, there's a difference between I'm upset versus I'm stealing a fucking cop car with a gun, where you just, in my opinion, it feels as if they've tried to go for an action angle too, something that just is a great action scene. It was actually a really good sequence of events. It's not Death Note.
Right. Yeah, he would have. He probably, like you said, he probably would have gone harder on them psychologically, like when he had them in solitary confinement. Like, he probably would have gone harder on them in that. Yeah.
And another thing, too, looking at a character we actually haven't spoken about yet, Ryuk, they somehow made Ryuk more menacing, yet, assumingly because, obviously there's a budget there and it's really hard to pay for Ryuk's everything, just existing. It's frustrating, though, because they made him more menacing, yet completely non-existent for most of the film. I don't know how you do that.
And and I don't think you ever really saw Ryuk unless it was in a very dark lit place, too.
Which makes sense. Duh.
Right, yeah, for the effects.
Well, no, because CG and effects look better in darkness.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and that's fine. Like, I thought the effects for Ryuk were amazing, and I really loved Willem Dafoe playing Ryuk. That was a perfect choice.
The effects for Ryuk were beautiful because they were mixed between practical and CGI, and I think they were done really well, and I loved it so much.
Yeah. Like, that's the good side of it. So I'll totally give him props for that. But the thing I didn't like about Ryuk is it feels like they made him more bloodthirsty. Like, he wants you to write people down in the notebook, whereas in the original series, he's more neutral. He's like, yeah, I dropped my book in the human world. I'm bored as fuck. I just want, I want something fun to watch. It's like he was surfing it's like he was looking through Netflix for something to watch. Oh, God. Imagine Ryuk from the manga looking through Netflix and seeing this and like, who the hell is that supposed to be? I mean, he's a handsome bastard, but like, really?
No, I feel like he'd look at him and be like, man, I didn't know I looked that good.
Yeah. But that whole intro scene where Ryuk is kind of pushing Light Turner to be like, why don't you write a name down and see how it works? Just assuming that this is all still a dream. Not to mention,
God, no, just
freak out.
It was bad. Yeah, both those were bad. Both the Light freak out and Ryuk pushing him in that way. But just hearing William Dafoe do it was just amazing.
Oh,
I know that's not
hearing him say it was beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, it's one of those situations, right, where I understand. Okay, we have to make Ryuk a little bit different, right? But you would think they would make him even more of an observer, because you can't make him feel like he's one of the central villains and then not have him be in most of the movie.
Right. And I feel like a lot of the pieces that he was in early on with Light was like looking around and saying, oh, hey, Light, you're being followed, or hey, there's surveillance cameras in your room. Just thought I'd let you know. But a lot of that got deferred to Mia in this case. Like, she's the one who comes up and says, hey, we're being followed, So it kind of took away from things that Ryuk could say, I felt, at least in this movie.
Yes, and in that case, obviously, yes, it saves money. But that means, again, you have to make Ryuk even more of an observer.
Yeah, right. And
because if you make him this... Yeah.
It always felt like he was saying, like, oh, if you don't have the stomach for this, I'll just take my notebook back. It's like, no, you did it because you wanted to have fun.
Also, I feel like it kind of takes away any, I guess, rules where, like, if the idea is like, oh, I'm going to try to write your name in. Well, that was a funny exchange of, like, last guy I know got two in.
Right.
Like, he got two letters, which was funny. Yes.
Oh, that was hilarious.
But what got me, though, was that, like...
That wasn't like, because he died. Oh.
Because, yeah, it was funny. Don't get me wrong. But it kind of feels like Ryuk being more bloodthirsty was so frustrating because... another thing, too, again, like, Ryuk is supposed to, like you said, signify or you said Ryuk is more like a viewer. So in my head, he signifies the viewer. Ryuk, other than in the ways when he was a dick in the manga, is kind of supposed to be like us because he comments in ways that we do when we see Light doing some of the terrible things that he does.
Yeah.
Like, when he kills his dad, it was like, wait, that was you? And
right,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
He reacted the same way we would.
I'd say we were a bit more judgmental, whereas he was like, oh, wait, that was you? Wow, man. Like, he wasn't
Yeah, no.
He was just kind of like, oh, shit, man, hardcore. Whereas everybody else was like, what the fuck?
No, of course, yes. I'm not saying he, obviously, yes, he underplayed certain things, but still, I think that he was meant to kind of represent us in the manga in a way, where here it's like I said earlier, if if he's supposed to represent us here, does the creator of this movie think that all of us are bloodthirsty?
Yeah.
Because I don't think every watcher wants to see all the cool deaths and wants to root for Light and wants Ryuk to be in there like, kill him. I think it was just a lot more fun to see Ryuk fuck with Light and then, like, Light push back. And some might say, oh, no, but he was fucking with him in this movie. But not, I don't know, whenever Ryuk said something like, oh, I'm going to take that notebook back, maybe because William Dafoe is just so good at being sinister, it never sounded like he was fucking with him. It sounded like, no, I'm going to fucking take that notebook back if you don't write down some names. All right, get me names. Like, it sounded like Ryuk was just a boss. Like, excuse me, Light, could you please stamp this listen, I need this before 5 o'clock.
Deadline. You know what that means.
Look, I don't want to work on the weekend. My kid has a thing. I need you to get me these names by 5 o'clock on Friday night. Otherwise, we're going into overtime, and our branch manager is not going to be happy. The Shinigami King is not going to like any of this.
Oh, my God.
Like, it's the thing. Like, Ryuk never came off like that. Like, Ryuk came off like just, like, if you don't write those, I'm going to fuck you up.
Right.
And it's weird. Because, again, that's not, it's not Ryuk. And, again, if you want to make that Ryuk, then you gotta, you gotta push Netflix somewhere, or you gotta do something to get him in for more of the movie.
Right.
Because it's just weird to just have him be like, hey, I've been watching you. You haven't seen me because it's really good on the budget that you don't fucking see me.
Yeah, it's like, was he just there the whole time they were screwing on top of the notebook? Or was he like, I'm not sticking around for this shit. Like, I'm going to go, I don't know, somewhere, anywhere else but here. Jeez.
Just the beds creaking? Get an NES Classic, I said. Would be fun for me, I said. I could do other things. While you do your homework, I said. This was one of those times, I thought. Like, and by the way, if anyone's wondering why I brought that up, in the manga, one of the random bonus little comic strips that they do, earlier on in the graphic novel, like volumes 1, 2, 3, they would do little strips in between chapters. And one of them that they did, it was around Christmas time, and Ryuk was asking Light for a Game Boy Advance SP, and he says it by name.
Oh my God, right, I remember that.
Oh, yeah, right? That was so long ago. Yeah, that's why I brought that up. For everyone, why did he bring up the NES Classic Edition? No, it's not me trying to promote those guys' play, our gaming YouTube channel. No. It's actually a Death Note reference in the weirdest of ways. But anyway, yeah, Ryuk felt more sinister, and I wasn't a fan. L became a bit too disturbed, and I wasn't a fan. I like it in theory, but again, wasn't a fan. It's weird that he kind of just... I know this is when he's disturbed, but he doesn't even think of Light's friends. Isn't it just fucking weird? Oh, Light, you are my prime suspect. Oh, also, Light has a girlfriend. I care about his friends. Killing 400 people is a group effort. Pshaw. It's one dude. Come on. It's L, greatest master detective, look into his kin. Look into his next of kin. Look into other people in his life.
I feel like that's also akin to, hour and 30 runtime. Got to kind of cut corners here and there to him narrowing down who Kira is.
No. It's fine that he narrowed down oh shit, it's Light. That's fine. I'm just saying that after narrowing it down to Light, it's weird that, he sees him always around with this girl. And it's why would it be the girl? It has to just be him. It's yes, because when you saw Bonnie and Clyde, you were like, nah, it's just Clyde.
Right.
That's my thing. That's my thing with it. And it happened later too when it's funny because again, there's certain things in this movie that I think were made too overly thought out, where try to be a bit too much oh, we got to do this way to do this way. But then all of a sudden it's just hey, wait a minute. Is that Light Turner? No, it isn't, you doofus. He has that
Right.
Yeah.
The super
wait
covert agents were not mistaking, the target as Light being this other kid because he switches top hats. Yeah, that was, oh God. At the band.
Wow.
That was ridiculous. Yeah.
That's some shit right there.
Because I was just well,
I was
that
my
explains why I haven't been caught yet.
Because everyone around you is fucking stupid.
Because L, I really thought your go-to guys were a bit more competent than this. Not gonna lie. Oh.
Watari was training these guys from the ground up. That was our first day when he left. Probably. Also, by the way, I have a question for you. So, do you? I mean, yes, obviously the whole Watari trying to find L's name, smart in a sense, but don't you? I don't know. I feel as if Watari shouldn't have even known that information in the first place, or where it would be. Okay, I know we have to simplify it, but isn't it I feel like anyone who knows his name should have been shot. Not that they should have been, but they would have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just.
I just felt like they had to kind of find a way for
do something.
Kira to get closer to L without having it be too drawn out or more drawn out like it is in the actual series. So.
I will say though, I like.
And why they went that
yes,
route.
but yeah, I know. That is why they went that route, I guess. But one thing I do want to say that I did like though, how they went in depth, how they actually had Watari. Because even though it's funny, I just said it sucks that he knows about the name and everything. But I do like that they went into the orphanage because that's something we never really saw. So in a way, as a fan of the anime and manga, it does feel like a kind of like a nod to something that oh wow, something we never really would have been able to see in those series. Also, the fact that even though it was brief, they give L some device that makes it seem it helps monitor his heart rate and how long he slept. Even Watari there telling him how long he slept. It seemed like the candy, there was something about it that maybe was made just for him. It felt like he was more it felt like there was more I guess tech around him, as if yeah, no, dude, you're a secret government agent. Yeah. Versus hey, we bred you to be a super soldier, but good luck. No, because it feels because we never really get anything other than just L, Watari, and then near Mello and Matt, which was I forgot the one with basically with the PSP.
Right.
So, who gets shot, sadly, really quickly. But he was always with Mello. We only get those few, and other than that, we don't really know much about. We just know hey, L's a really cool super spy, and he's also 2 to 3 other spies in the meantime, just to fuck with people.
Right.
Remember, he's Coil and some other people too.
Yeah.
So when it's yeah, it was beautiful. It was I want you to assassinate L. Oh no, that master detective wants to assassinate you. Good thing he's me.
Yeah.
I was wait, what? Yeah, no, I'm about 3 other detectives, just in the off. I just do it in my spare time, and in case anyone wants that one to murder the other one, it's cool because it's me.
Right.
But yeah, there's certain things about this movie that I feel like they captured the themes of parts of Death Note, and then other ones that they just went, nah, and just drove into a wall.
Right.
Like, just going 80. It was, just really bad. Like, just like, gosh, we don't really care. Like, we care, but, like, we don't care how this is going to come off. Because, I don't know, there's something... One thing I did like, though, is I felt like they went international, and in a way I did like that. Because, yeah, like, you can... Like, if you're going to watch the news, why just stay local? I mean, of course, Light stayed local enough early on that Elle was like, yeah, dude, Seattle, you idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a pattern. But still, it was nice to see them go international, overseas, and try to, find some other criminals to take down as well. Because it didn't just have to be like random local dude who's like a perv on the subway.
Yeah.
Because then that's too much, like too local, and then like Elle's like, yeah, no, they're literally only happening here.
Right.
I'm thinking, even though I didn't like Elle introducing himself to everyone in front of the cameras, that awkwardly in front of everyone, or like that openly rather, I did like how it easily slid. Like when he showed up to Light later in the in that cafe thing, it felt nice to know, like, oh hey, so you're that guy, right? Like that was a nice way to set it up.
Yeah.
Like coming from thinking of it from a filmmaker's perspective, it was a nice way to set it up. It's just my anime fan in me was like, no, it should be dramatic. Not, I want to tell you I'm Elle. But it would be nice to be a little bit more dramatic instead of just, hey, you're that Elle guy, right?
Right.
I saw you on the TV. Because even though I'm fucking a teenager, for some odd reason, I'm still watching television. I think that's the only... You know what? I think that's where my suspension of disbelief stopped. Out of everything that happened, I think that's where the fact that both of them watched more TV than YouTube, I think that's where it ends. Like, sure, there's an 8-foot-tall motherfucker standing in front of Light, but you know what? Why were they watching television at 17? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Oh, but Matt, they were watching the news. And there's an app for that. Who the fuck is watching the news?
Light, then conveying to his plan from his coma bed to his father after he's figured out who he is at the end of the movie, that was fine. You're still believing at that point? Like, how are we getting out of this? So are you killing your dad, like, right now? Or is he going to let you go? Or...
I don't know, man. You know what I know, man? You want to know what I know? I know one thing. And that's, sequel. We'll get to that bullshit in a minute, all right? I just want to talk about the fact that Light screaming in the beginning, because you brought it up way earlier, when he was screaming, like, hilarious. But I think that right there really did set the tone of, like, if you like the anime Light, you might have a problem.
That was basically the clip that I got from a friend when I was, talking about this movie. She was like, here, let me show you something. And I'm like, oh, dear God.
Funny, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, granted, even in the original series, like, obviously a supernatural being of death comes before you freak out a bit. Even the original Light, he falls out of his chair in a gasp and, kind of yells a bit. But he suddenly regains composure and says, no, actually, I've been wanting to talk to you. I have a plan for this notebook.
But remember, that is Light. In the manga anime, Light got the Death Note first.
Right. That's what I mean.
Here, he just went... He found it for, 5 minutes.
Right. And that kind of took away from me too, because the whole thing was Light's plan, and then when he tells it to Ryuk, he's like, "Oh, wow, shit, this kid's going to be more interesting than I thought." Whereas this one is like, hey kid, you want a Death Note? I bet you could do all sorts of shit with this.
Fucking feels like the clown from It.
Yeah, right?
Hey, Georgie, come on. We all write in the notebook down here, Georgie.
Oh, I got a Death Note for you down here.
You want a red apple? Oh, the kids like red apples, Georgie.
Oh, gee.
But what I want to say though, okay, so what do you think was more unbelievable? The whole, that's the same kid, he has a different hat. Or Mia being able to sneak behind a government agent in a parking lot.
Oh my God. Yeah, but both of those.
Okay.
I feel like are top. You know, before she goes up behind him and is able to tase him, like, I mean, even like you think a secret agent would be kind of trained for that, but then again, at the same time, if you've never been tased, it's like I never have, but like I know enough to be like, yeah, you're not getting up from that. Like it's literally made to do that. So I would say after that point, it makes sense. Before that, the fact that she's able to sneak up on the guy and get the name for the rest of the age, yeah, that was what was bothering. Like how?
I have no problem with I was hit with a taser. What can I do?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, I know you're an edgy teen in high school, and I think you know, and you think you live of the night and you're supernatural, but you're not. You're not as quiet and ghostly as you think you are. I'm sorry.
I mean, maybe you could argue. You could maybe argue, and I didn't even say this the first time we podcasted on this. The one that is unreleased doesn't fucking exist. Maybe I would argue a government agent thinks, oh, that's just a small high school kid. Unassuming.
Yeah.
Perhaps. But even then, when he hears the steps getting closer, I mean, again, maybe he saw her.
Yeah. If you get within a certain threshold, yeah.
You would imagine him holding her hand, like holding her arm, and then maybe her, like, I can see a struggle. I'm cool with a struggle. Like, I'm cool with the struggle of, like, what the hell are you doing? And then, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
The problem is that it was literally like, Mia sneaking on the government agent. It's like, what? Like, the only way that could work is if the government agent fucking touched a piece of the Death Note and could see Ryuk and was like, what's that? And then she fucking tases him.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But if it's literally like, I'm just walking in government agent, you know, I've been trained for this shit. Like, it feels like there's just such it's just such logic being thrown away because, oh my God, these are the main characters. When it comes to government-trained agents, like it felt like I was kind of, like it felt like this was a movie trying to be made for like the young adult. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, the teens are going to love this. But then it's rated R and has all this blood and guts. And I'm like, are the 15-year-olds supposed to be watching this?
That's what they love, Matt. It's 2017, Matt. I'm not saying it's right, but like that's what. And I'm not saying all teenagers love blood and guts and sex and all that because
I gotta get with the times.
Yeah, right. But that's what it feels like. It's like, no, you know, the kids, you know, oh, they love this shit. Yeah, like.
I'm sorry, Ryuk Rick. Turn myself into a Shinigami, Morty. You sounded like Ryuk Rick, like.
Oh God. That would be a horrifying combination.
Oh God, it would be the fucking. Actually, here we found it. It's just this movie. He's basically as sinister as. Yeah, you know, as we're wrapping things up here, I just want to say that, you know, I like the Ferris wheel scene. I think even though that wasn't Death Note enough compared to, you know, like a lot of stuff in the movie, wasn't really Death Note, but I think it's something that could have fit in Death Note, actually, the Ferris wheel scene, parts of it.
Yeah.
I mean, better than the chase scene.
That musical cue, though. My God.
Oh, right.
No.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for reminding me, because I've had this movie on mute, of course, because we're doing a podcast. So I forgot, because I watched it 2-3 weeks ago. The music in this movie, there was I'm sorry. No, here's the thing. The soundtrack, in terms of anything that was instrumental, seemingly made for this movie, instrumental, all of it was beautiful. I loved it. Very interesting feel. But everything that was vocal that they put in, oh God, it was so bad.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all. It just it really tried to make you feel like you were watching either a love story or a tragic love story or whatever the fuck, and I just was not a fan of it, because it just Again, even with what we had here, it wasn't a love story. She tried to kill him.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be a twisted.
Or when that guy hits Elle with a 2x4. And for some reason we get I
could have seen that happening. I can see that happening, someone who was helped, quote unquote, by Kira, or a family member was saved because he killed a criminal or got revenge for them, and it's you're Kira? Yeah. You go do your thing. You did right by me.
That's fine. The problem is the musical cue that they played made it seem like it's fucking Spider-Man 2 when Spider-Man's trying to stop the subway from falling.
Right.
Because because you're the one who even tipped me off to it. You're like, Matt, remember? Last podcast. I was like, right, yeah. The fucking musical cue made it seem like that guy was helping a hero, and it's no.
This is heroes that we all deserve.
No, thank you, no. So I was not a fan of that. Kira's God. Kira's wonderful. Kira doesn't mean killer. They didn't fucking mention that in the movie itself. But yeah, so the death happened of Mia, and it had to happen. I think, though, if you're going to make things different and interesting, I think you would have killed off Light.
True. Yeah. That
I'm not saying...
I don't know if I would have liked it in the moment, but if I thought about it afterwards, I think I would have enjoyed that twist, too.
You know what it is? I think the reason why I would have went for it is because... First off, what is this movie supposed to be? It's supposed to be Light's origin story? We're supposed to see him in the next movie? We're oh, no, see? Now in the next one, he's actually the Light that we all know and love or know and hate. I don't know. I don't think... Because usually, with an origin story, you either want to see what fucks someone up or you want to see what makes them so great.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie did neither.
Right. If we're going to play the angle that, Light's relationship with Mia really screwed him up, it's now he's really screwed up. I will rage quit.
Well, because that's the thing. What do you mean he's really screwed up? I don't think it. I don't know. He killed her. How did that screw him up? Oh man, it sucks that I had to do it.
But she said she loved me. I really hope.
It's really funny I really
say
that one more time.
I said if there is a sequel for this, I really hope that's not the way they go.
What's really funny is when you said roar, Ryuk was in the background with the Ferris wheel screaming into the wind, and I was like, oh God. But no, the one thing I want to say though is that about Ryuk actually, it's interesting how it looks like he's orchestrating he's like a maestro orchestrating the Ferris wheel falling. This movie did something that we don't really see often, apparently, or ever really in the Death Note series. Apparently, Ryuk is the one that orchestrates these events.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, if you look at the deleted scene for this movie, you'll see that Ryuk is actually the one driving the SWAT car that hits that guy that was holding his wife and the kids hostage.
I have a feeling I made that joke the first time, although you may have.
No, I made that joke the first time, and you were laughing hysterically at it.
All right, well, I want to laugh hysterically again because it's really fucking funny to think about him in the car driving. Because imagine it's like he's driving, the guy's not standing close enough to the left. Shows up like in front of him, hey, stand closer to the left. What the fuck? Moves to the left out of fear. Good. Gets back in the car. But let's be real here, though. Let's be real, though. If Ryuk is the one orchestrating some of these deaths, like pushing people off shit, or legit like pushing cars and shit, or moving them around, like, oh, I'm not driving in front of this, but I can't move, turn the car. If Ryuk's doing that,
right.
That does make sense as to why he's not around.
Yes.
No, think about it. If Light's killing 400 fucking people, Ryuk's very busy.
True.
That's what I'm saying.
Secret? Have we uncovered
we might have. That actually makes sense in a way. Now, what's dumb is that Light lived in the sense that no, because the way Mia fell and Light fell, the way they positioned them, I was like, oh, Light's gonna literally collapse on the fucking concrete below.
Nope.
And then he falls into the water, and I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Also, in a movie that has Watari being that brainwashed, that mind controlled, it makes sense that the notebook that piece of paper fell into the fire and then Light lived. However, it doesn't make sense in terms of, like, I don't know, the whole, like, oh, it can happen within reason. Like, yeah, because no fucking wind would pick up.
Right.
It'll just fall right into place. Okay, sure, whatever. So that was weird.
And
and what?
And scene.
Yes, exactly. Just fucking, it's like, well, Light's dead. But yeah, we mentioned a little bit earlier, honestly, as much as not necessarily I would have loved Light to die, but I think with the way this Light was, I think it would have been a very interesting turn if we just killed Light.
Right.
Because, yeah, sure, Light's dad exists still, but if you're going to make a sequel about it, right, well then guess what? You can focus on what Light's dad is doing after the death, and you can focus on what Els is doing, and the fact that, oh shit, Light's dead, he was my go-to for Kira. Was I wrong? There's another Kira.
Right. Yeah.
That would be such an amazing sequel to kind of go down that route and go, hey, anime fans, we're doing something super different here. And hey, everyone else, if you like this movie, here's our sequel.
Right. And I feel
no.
like making a character of their own, I feel like that, like, but still, using like the Death Note and having Ryuk, I feel like that would be a way to kind of get people more engaged with it. I mean, at least that's how I feel personally,
Yeah, no,
because
I think that if
comparison of like, this isn't the way I want my Light, kind of idea.
Exactly. No, yes, this isn't the way I want Death Note to be, because what's someone going to say when it gets to the point when, yeah, sure, there's L and there's Light's dad, but there's Mia. Like, Mia isn't Misa, even though, she's supposed to be the stand-in, but she obviously isn't Misa. So you have to sit there and be like, yeah, so what are you going to do? Like, this obviously isn't your Death Note anymore. It's different. Let's look at the differences and see what we can do here and see how interesting this is. But no, they played it a bit too safe at the end by still making Light live. And, of course, they changed up things by having Light's dad know that Light is Kira. Although, to be fair, though, in a way, he always knew. He just never wanted to admit it. In this movie, he just clearly admits it.
Right. Well, because this one, like that, I did like that. It's like the dad actually figures it out. It's like, there was one more killing, and he throws the slip of paper. It's like, the guy who killed, my wife and your mom. It's like, he was the first one to die. It was right in front of my face the entire time. And he's like, I can't believe it's you, son.
The only reason why that was weird to me is because, like, what are you going to do to your kid? Like, I'm saying, like, yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do to your kid, the serial killer? Or, Light, are you finally going to cross the line of, you didn't kill your dad the first time, you're going to have to do it now, though.
And also, so you and I talked about this movie even before we saw it. We talked about it on the Keikaku Corner podcast that people can find here on our Blog Talk Radio, audio form, and in video form, in clips on our YouTube channel, Those Guys Radio, or Those Guys on the Radio, right? We talked about it because the director said, oh, there might be a possible sequel, and I really wrote it to be a 3-part series.
Right.
Here's why I got mad at his comments. I didn't get mad at the time, because at the time I was like, oh, I guess he must have closed it up, and maybe there could be a sequel.
Right.
After seeing this movie, I'm pissed at those comments because, yes, you don't want to – I'm sure he just didn't want to spoil the movie.
Right.
But oh, yeah, there could be one. You fucking wrote it so that there wasn't an ending. This didn't end.
Right. It was very obviously intended to have a sequel.
Yeah. Like, if you didn't do the L scene and you didn't have Light's dad there, then I think you could say, oh, we're wrapping this up.
Right.
And in my opinion, if it got greenlit for a sequel, because it's all digital, just have Netflix. Oh, and also, Netflix does release DVDs as well. But you would just have, deleted scenes of those two things happening, like with Light's dad and with Elle. And if it gets greenlit for a sequel, then what you do is on Netflix's, on its, digital service, on a streaming service, you just re-upload the movie with those scenes added in because now it's canon. But if it never ended up getting a sequel, then remove those scenes and try to make it seem like it's its own movie as possible.
Right.
Because when you fucking put those scenes in there, yes, you needed a reason for him to explain what happened, to be fair. But he can also think, he has thoughts. Or Ryu could have asked him, so how the fuck did you do it?
Right, yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's just so weird that you add in this L scene of like, oh my God, he mentioned a woman. I saw him with a woman. And then his dad's like, so, I know that you did it. Just kind of tell me how. It is so strange that you add those in and you're like, I don't know, maybe a sequel. It's like, well, if there isn't a sequel, then this is an incomplete story. And I'm kind of frustrated even in watching it because even if it was the best adaptation ever, it would suck if it never got completed.
Right.
So, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of when people write things as if they're a sure thing. And it felt like, again, maybe it wasn't on him. Maybe it was Netflix saying, hey, make it open-ended so people might be more interested in seeing the next installment. But to me it came off as, yeah, there's going to be a sequel. And it's like, what if there isn't, though? So that's my thing. Like, what if there isn't a sequel, Tristan? What will we do?
They're so interesting.
That's what we'll say. By the way, I don't fucking get that line being put there was like, oh God, do you just not know how to end this movie?
Just like I don't know how to end this podcast.
Just like I don't know how to end this podcast. How long have we been talking about this? We've been talking about this for the entire movie's runtime. Let's stop. Okay, so No. We cut it here. No. Just to wrap it up, just really wrap it up. Do you want to see another one of these? Like, if there's a sequel, putting the podcast aside, would you want to see it?
I mean, I really didn't watch this one until we did it for the cat, so I'd have to go with no.
Okay. But I'm saying that even though you watched this one for the podcast, just like I did, right? But when watching it, right, again, there was good parts, there were bad parts. Did those good parts make you go, I would see another one, or no?
No.
Damn. I get why, but damn. I think
they were nice,
yeah.
but it's not enough.
It intrigued me. I just think that the problem, of course, is that, again, like, I don't know, like, what's the second part going to be? And is the second part going to be everything we would have wanted in the first part? Like,
right.
Is this going to be the point where Light's going to get to be Kira but going to feign ignorance because Al's going to be like, no, it was Mia, it wasn't you. And then what's his dad going to do? His dad going to be like, well, you can kill, but only on the weekends, son, after your homework's done.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, I just feel like they had a way to make this more interesting with Mia, and they got out of it. And now, I don't know. Like, now we have Ryuk. Like, is he on Light's side now?
Right. I don't know.
These are questions
that's
that I'm...
a good summation of this movie. Just don't.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Look, we're asking these questions, but in a way it's not like we need them to be answered. I think that's the problem with this movie, too, is that everything they tried to put at the end to be like, oh, my God, do you care? You care, right? It's like, no, actually. It sucks, but I kind of don't. But, yeah, like anything I would have been interested in, I feel like they kind of just suppressed that in some ways. So just by making Light seem like the good guy and everyone else seem like the bad guy. But, I mean, again, well, we say this now, but then in 2019 we'll be fucking doing another show about it. So anyway, we want to thank you all for listening in as always. Please remember to, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're watching this on Blog Talk Radio, you can also follow us as well. And definitely check us out on iTunes as well by searching up Those Guys Radio. You can also donate to us to help fund us be us, and also get some cool things on the side by going to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TG Productions. And you can go to our YouTube channel, as I mentioned earlier. We have a gaming channel called Those Guys Play. Search that up. Also, we have our podcast account. It's like, Matt, what are you doing? We podcast as well. We're doing one right now over at Those Guys on the Radio. Search that up. And we have a TG Productions YouTube account, which searches up TG Productions, which has a lot of our other stuff like Toku Trivia and Apocalypse and a bunch of other shows as well. Thank you all so much for listening in as always. And say goodnight, Tristan.
Good night, everyone.
People listening to the podcast are interesting. I don't know.